So today we're going to learn how to write equations for ellipses, and we're going to start with slide 9. We already covered all of this information yesterday. So again, we saw this yesterday as well. Again, we will not test you on eccentricity, but be able to do this for the web assign that you had to do last night. You just take your C value and you put it over A, but be aware of it for standardized tests. And again, it just measures the ovalness of the ellipse. So now what we're going to do is you're going to be given some pieces of information about your ellipse, and we need to learn how to write the equation. So notice here, it's telling us our center is at 0, 0. And again, we can see from our focus point here that this number here, this plus and minus 3, it's in the Y spot. So this tells me that my major axis is going to be vertical. It's the y-axis. So my major axis is the y-axis. So my a squared is going to be under the y squared. So remember, we're going to be doing this, x squared and then y squared. But because the major axis is the y, so I'll put a squared underneath here and then the b squared here. This is going to be the equation I'm filling in. And when I do this, because my center is at 0, 0, I use this shorter one. Really, all I need to find is the value of a squared and b squared. So on the prior slide, we learned that the major axis length is always equal to 2 times a. So this major axis length is always 2a. So I'm going to set it equal to 8, divide by 2, a equals 4. But then in order to get a squared, I got to square it. So if I square both sides, a squared becomes 16. So I've already got my first missing piece that I can fill in here. A squared equals 16. Now I need to find my b value. Now here's where it'll probably pay off if I can go ahead and give myself a visual. But again, remember, when your ellipsis has the center at 0, 0, remember this focus point is 0, comma, plus or minus c. So really, I don't have to give a visual. I know my c value. If I just go ahead and square that, if c equals 3, then c squared is going to be 9. So c squared equals 9. And now to get my b squared, all I really need to do is c squared equals a squared minus b squared. C squared was 9. A squared was 16. And now I'm solving by subtracting 16. I get negative 7 equals negative b squared. Divide by negative 1. I don't need to square root anything because remember, we were looking for b squared. So then you just put 7 here. So on this one, I really didn't need to give myself a visual, but if it helps you, go ahead and graph what was given. So they gave me the center at 0, 0. They gave me my 2 focus points at positive 3 and negative 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So here's my focus points. And then remember, the c value is the distance from the center to the focus. So this is how I could have also gotten my c value by graphing it and counting the spaces. But if you remember the rules, the focus point is always when the center is at 0, 0 and your major axis is vertical, it's always 0, comma, plus or minus c. So let's try the next one. Again, still the center at 0, 0. And notice this time in my focus point, this number is in the x spot. So this tells me my major axis is going to be the x-axis. So it's horizontal. So the equation I'm going to be filling in is going to be x squared and then the y squared equals 1. And I'm going to be filling in my a squared and my b squared. And again, the a squared this time is under the x squared. So now, again, you can either give yourself a visual or remember that when the center is at 0, 0, that this number here is your a value. This is plus or minus a, comma 0. So if a equals 3, then a squared equals 9. And I can fill that in. So x squared with a 9 here, plus y squared, and I don't know the b squared yet. I'm going to be working on that. And again, they gave me the focus point. So remember your focus point, this is plus or minus c, comma 0. So my c value is 2. So when I square that, c is 4. And again, you can graph it if you need to, but we really don't need to. So let's go ahead and do c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Plug in c squared, which is 4. Plug in a squared, which is 9. And I don't know b squared yet. So I'll go ahead and subtract 9. Negative 5 equals negative b squared. Divide by negative 1. And again, I don't need to square root it because I'm trying to find b squared, and that's what I fill in here. If you wanted to give yourself a visual, you could have graphed it. You could have graphed your 2 focus points. So my 2 focus points were negative 2, positive 2, located along the x-axis here. So I could have graphed my 2 focus points. And then that would have given me my c value, because remember the c value is the distance that the focus is from the center. And then I could have also graphed my vertices and gotten my a value that way. And a equals 3, the distance from the center to the vertices. But again, really you didn't need to, because we could have gotten it as long as you memorize the rules. Let's try another example. So this time my vertices are at 0, comma plus or minus 5, and it's passing through the order pair 4, comma 2. So for this is just going to be an order pair, our x and our y. This one's going to involve a little bit more work. So again, if you want to give yourself a visual, we can graph these vertices. This is going to be 0, comma plus or minus a. And we can see that our graph is going to be vertical. So here, if I go ahead and graph these, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a point right here and here. And then I could also graph the other order pair if I need it. But here we can see it's on the y-axis, so you can see it's vertical. So the equation that we're going to be filling in is going to be x squared, and I'll put the y squared here. And since it's in the y spot, that's where a squared goes. And then the b squared here, and then 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill in what I have. So again, my a value is 5. So if a equals 5, a squared equals 25. So I can go ahead and fill that in. I need to work on the b value, or the b squared. Now, this time I don't have any information about the focus, so what I'm going to do here instead is not use the c squared equals a squared minus b squared. I'm going to use just my original equation, and now I'm plugging in for x and y and the a. So what I'm going to do here is use this equation again, still the same main one that I'm using, b squared, a squared. Now this one's more challenging. We're dealing with fractions here. So my x value was 4. So 4 squared. I don't know b squared. Y squared, or y is 2. I'm getting this from the ordered pair. A squared I found to be 25, or the 5 squared, equals 1. So I'm going to square those numerators. I get 16 over b squared. 4 over 25, and then this equals 1. I'm going to change my whole number 1 into 25 over 25 because I need to solve this equation. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 over 25 from both sides. And then I get 16 over b squared equals 21 over 25. Now, you can either choose to solve this as a proportion or multiply both sides by b squared to get it out of the denominator. I like to solve these as a proportion. So I'm going to cross multiply b squared times 21, and then I'll do 16 times 25. So once I do the cross products, I get 21b squared, and then 16 times 25, 16 quarters is $4, so 400. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 21. B squared is equal to 400 over 21. I don't need to find the square root here because I'm plugging in b squared. So all I have to do is take what b squared equals, and then I'm going to put it here in the denominator. Now, be aware that this could be an answer, or what we would have to do is flip it, and really what we're doing here is dividing 1 by 400 over 21. So if I wanted to get the fraction out of the denominator, what I'm doing is 1 divided by 400 over 21. This is keep, change, flip. So then really what it becomes is 21 over 400. So also recognize that this answer is going to be 21x squared over 400 plus y squared over 25 equals 1. So if you get a question like this on WebAssign tonight, know that you're going to have to move the 21 to the bottom to figure out your a squared b squared. Everybody with me on that? Okay. So recognize both answers here, because on a multiple choice test or a standardized test, both of these answers could be represented the same way. Okay, so for number 8, again, if it helps you to give yourself a visual, let's do that. Let's graph what we've got. So I've got vertices at, this time we have an H and a K because our center is not going to be at 0, 0 on this one. So we have vertices at positive 3, positive 3. I've got one at positive 3, negative 3. So these are the vertices. Remember, the center is going to be the midpoint here. So my center is actually located right here, because you can see that this is 3 spaces away, 3 spaces away. We could count the little gaps, or we could find the midpoint between these. If you wanted to do the midpoint formula, if you weren't going to give yourself a visual, just remember the center is the midpoint of the vertices. And the midpoint formula is you add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. So 3 plus 3, divide by 2. 3 plus negative 3, divide by 2. And this gives me 6 over 2. This gives me 0 over 2. So again, your midpoint or your center is the ordered pair 3, 0. So that's my center. And again, you could have just counted the little gaps there. So then now, also what I want you to do, oh, it's already changed for you. So minor axis length, remember back yesterday we saw in the notes that the minor axis length was always equal to 2 times b. So 2 times b equals 2. So I can go ahead and divide both sides by 2, and my b value is 1. So then if I square both sides, b squared is equal to 1. So my a value, remember, is the distance from the center to the vertices. So this 3 here is going to be my a value. So my a equals 3, so a squared equals 9. And that's all I needed to find because I found my center, my a squared, and my b squared. So now I can go ahead and you can see it's vertical. So we know that the a squared is going to be under the y. So the formula that we're going to be filling in is going to be x minus h squared. B squared is under that because my major is vertical. So a squared is under the y squared. So this is what I'm filling in. So again, here's my center. It's the HK. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in. So x minus 3 squared. My b squared is 1. Y minus 0 squared. And my a value is 9. Now, what I can do here is this y minus 0. I can just make this a y squared. I don't need to show the 1 at the bottom of the x minus 3 squared. So this would be your simplified equation. This time they're giving me the 2 focus points and the major axis length. So remember, the major axis length is always equal to 2 times a. Divide by 2. My a is equal to 4, so a squared equals 16. So I can go ahead and graph my 2 focus points to see which axis is the major. So if I graph the 2 focus points, so if I go 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I graph my 2 focus points, and let's change this, let's change this order pair and make this 4, 0. We're going to make it horizontal. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my 2 focus points are at 0, 0 and 4, 0. I just changed the problem. So the equation I'm going to be using, since the focus points are always on the major axis, it's going to be horizontal. So the formula I'm filling in is going to be x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Now, again, remember the center not only is the midpoint of the vertices, it's also the midpoint of the focus. So I can go ahead and either count the little squares and see where my midpoint is, 2 spaces away. So this is 2 away. So then this is going to give me my C value. Or I could have done the midpoint formula. So 0, 0, 4, 0. Add the x's, divide by 2. Add the y's, divide by 2. 4 over 2 is 2, 2, 0. So this is my center. It's this point right here. And again, you can see your C value, the distance from the center to the focus, is 2. So then that tells me that C squared equals 4. Now, I don't need C squared in my formula. I need B squared. So what I need to do is use my formula, C squared equals A squared minus B squared. Fill in C squared. Fill in A squared. And solve for B squared. Negative 12 equals negative B squared. Divide by negative 1. 12 equals B squared. You don't have to square root it because that's what we need to fill in here. And then I'm filling in the A squared with the 16. And then I'm filling in my h and k from my center point here. So the final equation here is going to be x minus 2 squared over 16 plus y minus k, which is 0. So really I don't have to show minus 0. I could just put y squared over b squared, which is 12. And I'm done. Last example. Again, if you want to give yourself a visual, but you can see the 8 is going to be in the y spot. So you can see your major axis is going to be vertical. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Got a focus point here and here. And then my major axis is 2a equals 16. Divide, a equals 8. And then I square both sides. So a is going to be, a squared is 64. Now, over here, again, you can either do the midpoint for this to get the center, or just find the middle of your visual. But you could do 0, 0, 0, 8. So 0 plus 0, the two x's, the two y's, and divide by 2. So you would get 0, 4. So that's your center. So there should be a little line here. So this is our center. And it's the order pair 0, 4. And again, same setup. We have a squared, but we need b squared. And again, our formula here, our a squared is under the y squared. So again, it's x, pencil, x minus h squared, and then the b squared is going to be underneath here, y minus k squared with a squared underneath. So I already have my h and k. I'll be filling in 0 and 4 there. So if I plug in a 0 here and a 4 here, the x minus 0 is just x squared. And then this is y minus 4. I also have my a squared already. It was the 64. So now I need to just find the b squared. So I'm going to use my c value. And again, I can find the c value here, and I can see that it's just four spaces away. So my c is 4. So c squared is 16. So c squared equals a squared minus b squared. 16 equals 64 minus b squared. Subtract 64. Negative 48 equals negative b squared. Divide both sides by negative 1, and 48 equals b squared. So that's what I'll fill in underneath the x squared. So final answer, x squared over 48 plus y minus 4 squared over 64 equals 1. So again, if it helps you to give yourself a visual, you can. You don't necessarily always have to. So that is writing the equations of the ellipse, and your homework is 4.3D.